Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will begin. The board is now in session. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, preliminary matters on the AM docket. Case number 6415 West Cold Spring Lane, postponed. Case number 81002-04 Light Street, postponed. Call the case of Lighthouse Point Licensee LLC, trading as Button, 2701 Boston Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service, requesting off-premise catering and delivery of alcoholic beverages. Please come forward.
Counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff. My name is Joe Woolman. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I have 4 copies of a memorandum of law and an outline that I'll introduce for the record.
Okay. Before you do that, can I ask them to raise their right hands, please?
Oh, certainly. I'm sorry.
Raise your hand so you swear or affirm the testimony that you're going to give will be the truth.
Okay. So for everyone's benefit who hasn't been here, we're both recorded and televised. So when you are sworn in, you're going to testify, you need to come to the microphones and speak into them so that your voice is picked up. And if you would tell our reporter what your name is and spell it if it's not Smith. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would proffer to the board, if it pleases the board,
Okay.
Regarding what's contained in the outline at this point. Obviously, we have the applicant and the manager of the establishment here to my right. If the board has any questions for them after I've proffered what's contained in the outline and the memorandum of law. Ms. Virginia Allen, who's standing directly to my right, is our manager. And Ms. Mandy Lewin, am I saying that right? Lewin, I'm sorry, is our applicant, and she's standing behind me. The licensed premises is located at 2701 Boston Street. It's in Lighthouse Point, which some of you may be familiar with, a fairly large development along Boston Street in the waterfront. There's a large marina on the waterfront there as well. This property is obviously part of Lighthouse Point, and the premises, the licensed premises, includes a restaurant which was formerly called Canner's Row, the new name trading as the Button. There is a pool area, there is a kiosk, and there is also the marina itself. And our team met with your staff actually some time ago to confirm that the licensed premises does include all these things that I just mentioned. Our applicant is certainly familiar with the rules and regulations of the Baltimore City Liquor Board, and she pledges to abide by them. She was born in 1980 and lives in Baltimore City. Regarding our community outreach, I've had conversations with the Canton Community Association as recently as this morning, as a matter of fact. For the Commission's education, we're going to the Zoning Board next week on a live entertainment application, so we're coming back to you at some point regarding the addition of that to our license. But we wanted to get this transfer completed first. The Canton Community Association has been great to work with. Had a good conversation with their president this morning. We're working on an MOU regarding that live entertainment. We are, and I'll just tell you this for the board's, for the board's information. We are looking to actually close down for a period of time during the off season. I've obviously discussed the idea of how long you can close down for, et cetera. But there are a lot of renovations. There's been some flooding, and there may be more on the way at this location. They want to make some significant repairs, some improvements. This property was part of an overall real estate portfolio purchase that my client, Mr. Plank, made some time ago, and they're very interested in greatly improving this amenity for the community, and the community is frankly excited about that. Regarding the criteria to approve the application, obviously you're well aware of those criteria. Regarding the public need and desire for the license, the ability to serve alcohol as a complement to this restaurant, this pool area, the marina, et cetera, will greatly enhance our ability to provide what we believe to be a unique service to the residents and visitors down at Lighthouse Point. Number and location of existing license holders. There's 7 other licenses in the area, according to your records, 4 of which are Class BD7. The potential effect on existing license holders of the license for which the application is made. The location of the license complements and will add to a vibrant commercial corridor along Boston Street that already includes a variety of restaurants and venues. The potential commonality or uniqueness of the services and products to be offered by the business of the applicant. Obviously, the new operators hope to offer very unique services at what they hope to be a one-of-a-kind venue in Baltimore City. The impact of the license for which the application is made on the health, safety, and welfare of the community, including issues related to crime, traffic, parking, and convenience. Again, we're making significant improvements. We're actively seeking the input of the surrounding businesses and residents during that time. Several events were held this past season by the new operators, which were received favorably by the public in general. Obviously, you may consider any other factors necessary. We have a manager who just recently brought on board. There was some change in management. I discussed that with your deputy executive secretary, and your staff is aware of the change in management. But she is here to answer any questions you may have.
So you're going to be the manager?
Yes, sir.
And how large is your staff?
Staff right now in the front of the house, we have a little bit under 20 folks, and then in the kitchen, we have a little bit more than 20 folks.
Did you get her name?
Just the first time.
Sorry, it's Virginia Allen, A-L-L-E-N.
Okay. And Ms. Allen, what's your background?
I have done a number of things. Professionally, I've been doing restaurants for about 15 years, mostly in management. Before that, I also did education, so I was a teacher. I was a high school math teacher, so a strange transition into the exciting world of restaurants. I'm really interested in the agricultural side of restaurants in particular, so I have a background in sourcing, foraging, things like that, and managing more of a portfolio of how things get to the restaurant, as well as how they're executed and brought to the public.
Okay. And I assume that you're familiar with the rules and regulations of the Liquor Board with respect to purchasing and managing the sale of alcoholic beverages?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you certified?
Yes.
Okay. And others who will be handling the alcohol will also be certified?
Yes, we have a bar manager who's certified, and then we also have a head bartender who's certified, and another person on the management staff who's also certified.
Okay. Is there anything further?
Nothing further.
Commissioners?
I don't have any questions.
I have one question. Ms. Allen, can you speak to how you'll monitor the alcohol at the pool area? Because there's a pool component to this as well, right? Can you talk through that process?
Sure. Just to clarify, are you talking about the actual storage? Thanks. Are you talking about the actual storage of the product, or are you talking about the service?
The service, I'm sorry.
Got it. Yes, absolutely. So, of course, anyone we serve alcohol to, whether it's inside or outside, will be ID'd. When we do events, we do the classic kind of nightclub style armband. We work with a security team that we outsource that, but our bar manager is always present for events that are outside, and then he monitors at the door the ticketing of the events. When people come in, they have to present an ID to get the ticket, and the ID will let us determine whether they're of age. Then we can put the appropriate wristband on. So anybody who's in the property has to have a wristband indicating either under 21 or over 21.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Is there actually a lighthouse?
There, I believe, if you're familiar where the Bo Brooks establishment is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a small lighthouse attached to that?
I
Is
think
that-
it's fair to say it's a lighthouse-shaped building.
Right, I don't think, it's certainly not a functional lighthouse.
Metaphorical.
Okay. Understood.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, is it possible that council can provide the board with the proposed closure time and a rendering of the before and after of the renovations?
Oh,
So the
absolutely.
inspector will be put on notice.
Absolutely.
Thank
No,
you.
Thank you for that, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further? All right. Then on the basis of the materials contained in the application, proffers from council, the materials that have been received in evidence this morning, and the testimony received, I would vote to approve the application to transfer ownership with outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
I too concur and vote to approve the application with continuation of outdoor table service, requesting off-premises catering and delivery of alcoholic beverages.
I join my colleagues and would grant the transfer of ownership with continuation of outdoor table service, off-premise catering, and the delivery of alcoholic beverages.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Okay, call exhibits for the record. App Exhibit 1, Memorandum of Law in Support. Thank you.
But isn't the original?
Doubles Market and Grill LLC, trading as Doubles Market and Grill, 2556 Madison Avenue. This is a Class D beer and wine license, an application to transfer ownership requesting outdoor table service. Please come forward.
Good morning. Mr. Williams?
Good morning. For the record, Justin Williamson, law firm Rosenberg Martin Greenberg. I'm joined by Brianna Cole.
Ms. Cole, would you come forward and raise your right hand, please?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, Mr. Williams, what do we have here?
Permission to proceed by way of proffer. So with one of the licensee applicants who goes by Cole, Cole's partner, Aisha Pugh, is unavailable to attend this morning. This is an application to transfer the ownership of the Class D beer, wine, and liquor license that was owned and held by Andy's Food Mart at 2556 Madison Avenue. The board previously approved the transfer in June 2017. However, due to delays in construction and obtaining financing for the construction, the applicants cannot complete the transfer within the 180-day period. And so that transfer approval lapsed, and so we're back again to get reapproved.
And we granted a hardship back in January.
Correct. A little bit with licensed premises, so this should be duplicative for some of you. The property is located in the Reservoir Hill neighborhood, and property is zoned R7. And the BMZA has previously granted approval for the use of the establishment as a food store with an existing cafe, restaurant, with accessory outdoor table service. I've included in the packet of materials for you the Google aerial and street view images showing the property. As can be seen in the aerial photo, it's located adjacent to a parking lot utilized by the residents of the Renaissance Plaza at 2601 Madison Avenue and across from a small alley street and a warehouse operated by Micah. Perhaps as a remnant of the neighborhood's troubled past, the former establishment that was at the property used bulletproof glass, had bars with the windows, and the applicants have purchased the property and intend to improve it and make some additions and improvements to the property. Aisha and Cole are the current operators and owners of Dovecote Cafe, located down the street from the licensed premises. Since opening in December 2015, they've made a name for themselves as a community-focused and driven restaurant. There's a couple of articles in the file showing the, I guess, how well-received Dovecote Cafe has been. It's one of many couple projects in the Reservoir Hill area that are helping to restore the neighborhood's lost vitality and charm. And in fact, the Baltimore Sun article and the materials I've given you specifically references how the Dovecote Cafe has helped reestablish commercial activity in the neighborhood and helped quash the drug activity in the neighborhood and helped provide an amenity for neighbors. That establishment does not have liquor licenses, though. So this would be the first liquor license establishment for the applicants.
So how many tables are you going to have?
In the space itself, it will have a small dine-in counter, and then there will be about 8 to 12 outside. So it is really meant to be a split. We're working with BDC pretty closely to provide a model for what a healthy, fresh produce access corner store can look like, with still a really nice but small inclusion of beer and wine.
And when do you think it will be finished, completed?
Absolutely. Great question, because we've become old friends now. So when we purchased the building, the previous owners opened the building in 1950. They opened their business in 1957, and the upstairs was vacant for about 30 years. And so, unfortunately, there was just termite damage. There was way more work than even our inspector identified. So the great news is, and then we had a very rainy summer, so that has delayed us putting a new roof on, but we anticipate that we will be ready by spring. The building will be finished by late spring, so April, May. And so we actually are putting a roof on next week, which is the primary thing that we had to do the pest work. But we're excited for the timeline. We have all the resources, and now we're raring to go.
Okay. Anything further?
And you see in the materials I provided for your petition signed by over 260 neighborhood and community members, and then letters of support from the Reservoir Hill Improvement Council and other stakeholders in the community.
And when we had our first hearing, we had almost 30 people join us in support of the liquor license. There are only 2 liquor stores in the neighborhood, and they've been real centers of negative activity, and so people are really excited to have that amenity and have it transformed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
No further questions.
No questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So on the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from council, the exhibits that have been received, and your testimony, Ms. Cole, I would vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
Thank you.
I concur as well and would vote to approve the transfer with the outdoor table service.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you all so much.
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Applicant Exhibit 1, business plan. Thank you.
Bryan Restaurant, Inc., trading as Puerto Jaraco Restaurant and Lounge, 4701-03 Eastern Avenue. This is a Class D beer and wine license and application to transfer ownership, requesting off-premise catering. Please come forward.
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky representing the applicants.
Good morning. Folks, would you raise your right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Okay. Mr. Kadansky?
This is a small restaurant up in which people used to refer to as Greektown, but now it's sort of mixed up as soon as you come out of the underpass there on the right-hand side. It's just a beer and wine license. The applicants here are going to have basically, well, it's before a Latino-type menu in the place. Have somewhere between 4 and 6 employees who trying to hire people from the neighborhood. The hours of operation will be generally around 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock to around 12 o'clock when they finish doing the business. In the case here, Ms. Dela Cruz has about 8 or 9 years of experience in the restaurant business, understands about serving minors, what to make sure they check the ID, make sure they're old enough. She'll be on the premises at all times. She's certified by TIPS and also is familiar with the rules and regulations of the liquor board. The other gentleman will be there helping her. Victor will be helping her operate the place, and behind them is Nick Bilbasis, who was the former owner of the building. They have then since purchased the building from him now, so they'll be invested full-time as both owners and operators of the building. They're cleaning the place up, expect to have it ready to open probably in the next couple months or so.
Okay. And how many people will be working there?
Like around 6 people?
Okay. And you'll train them with respect to the alcohol sales?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners?
Do we have anything from the community, or has there been any outreach to the community?
That community there, usually there's 2 or 3 groups. There's the Greater Greektown, and what's his name, Major Gavrelis is generally the person, and they have been up there working. Nobody's really came out, and Mr. Bilbasis is familiar with the neighborhood, so nobody's come forward to say one way or the other. But it's a small restaurant that just has beer and wine. It's not like a big beer, a big place. But I told them they should get together. I think there's another group there called the 12th Street. Is it 12th Street Improvement Group? But it's both the Greater Greektown, which are mainly Greek, for the St. Nicholas Church there, and then there's the 12th Street's up on the other side.
Okay. Anything further? All right, thank you. On the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from council, testimony received, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer of the license with off-premise catering.
I, too, vote to approve the transfer with off-premise catering. Good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
No exhibits.
Southside Saloon LLC, trading as Southside Saloon, 430 East Fort Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the address of 430 East Fort Avenue appears on the non-conforming zoning list and must comply with the new zoning standards within 2 years.
Okay. Council?
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky representing the applicants in the case. They're familiar with the zoning with regard to BD7 that must be compliant as a non-conforming use to have over 50% of the sales over the bar. In this case here, this has been, you want to swear them in, and I'll give you the rest of it.
Okay. Would you raise your right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Thank you.
This is a neighborhood taverns there. Mr. Satowski has been on the license for the past about 18 years, never any problems. He's going to stay on the license. Miss McKenzie has been an operator down in Ocean City for a while and operated a place. They don't plan to make any changes to the operation. It's going to be the same as it was before. The inside and outside is going to take cosmetic improvements because it's been a while since anything's been done. That area, I'm sure you're all familiar, years ago was a lot of longshoremen and stuff has been taking a complete renovation. They have reached out to the Federal Hill South Improvement Association, let them know their intentions. I have a copy of the email if you'd be interested, just saying that what they were doing. They've had, no negative feedback on it. Which is alcohol certified, and whatever people that are working in the neighborhood, they'll try to hire people from the neighborhood if possible. And Mr. Stowski will stay on since he's been there for a long time. He knows everybody that's up and down the street.
Okay, so you left Ocean City, huh?
I had a business in Ocean City
Oh, okay.
that I probably owned for about 3 years and had a beer and wine license, but it's closed up now.
Commissioners?
I don't have any questions.
I do have a question. The application says that Ms. McKenzie has never held a license for the sale of alcoholic beverages in the state of Maryland.
That's incorrect, because I wasn't sure until she told me she was down in Ocean City.
So she did own for, as you said, as you
Beer and wine.
testified, for 3 years.
Probably about 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Any issues on that license?
No, none at all.
And you owned it, you didn't manage, you owned it outright?
Yep, I owned that outright.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anything further? Okay, thank you. On the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffer from counsel, and the testimony received, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer.
I vote to approve the transfer.
Good luck. Thank you.
Good luck, thank you.
No exhibits?
Ty Smith, Inc., trading as Truth Lounge 2, 4507-09 Bel Air Road. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of live entertainment. Please come forward.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Sean Harvey, 309 South Conklin Street, Baltimore, 21224 for the applicants. To my right, Ms. Taisha Smith and Ms. Tyra Anderson.
Good morning. Mr. Williams, you're going to be involved as well?
Good morning, Justin Williams, the law firm Rosenberg Martin Greenberg, on behalf of the Frankfurt Improvement Association. I'm joined by Barbara Jackson, the president of the association, and Margie Dieter.
All those who are going to testify, please raise your right hands.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harvey.
Mr. Chairman, this looks a little more ominous than it is. Actually,
But
we met with...
We got a letter. They said that they'd like to meet with you.
And we did. We, for an hour and a half 2 days ago, and we arrived at an MOU, which I have actually original. I'm going to hand to the
Okay.
board.
Well, tell us about the application.
Okay. The application is being made by Ms. Smith, is 95% owner of a corporation which coincidentally is called Ty Smith, Inc. The establishment will be called Truth Lounge 2. She entered into an agreement to purchase this business from the current licensee for $120,000. $20,000 down, $100,000 over 10 years at 10%. She's also entered into a lease with the owner of a building for 3 years. First year is $1,500 per month, and it goes up 3% for the next 2 years. Ms. Smith has been working at this establishment now since June, I think, isn't it? Yes. And so she's got that experience. She also has some experience as a bartender for about 4 years at one of her relatives' establishments. But she's never held a license before, and she's already been certified by Alcohol Awareness. Ms. Anderson has not yet been certified, but she will be. And according to the MOU, any employee will also be certified in alcohol awareness. Ms. Smith is a correctional officer from the state of Maryland, and the hours are delineated in the MOU, specific hours, and usually it works around Ms. Smith's work with the state of Maryland. She will be the full-time operator, and number of how many employees do you expect to have?
3.
3. Okay, and of course you understand that if you have employees, you have to have workers' compensation insurance. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And you agree to do that?
And they all need to be trained with respect to the alcohol rules, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we just mentioned that. So as I said, we met with the Frankfurt Improvement Association, very nice people.
Hey, let me indicate for the record, you've handed me an original of a memorandum of understanding that was executed yesterday. the 13th of September this year between the Frankfurt Improvement Association, Inc. and the licensees. Are they willing to have the terms of the MOU, to the extent enforceable, become a restriction on their license?
Yes, it was fully explained to them that this would be a part of the license going forward. Any violation of this would be a violation of the terms of their license. And I understand that. I think all of these provisions in this agreement have been mutually agreed upon by all parties, and they're able to be lived with everyone.
Okay. And your folks are in agreement, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Okay, anything further?
Nothing further.
Commissioners?
I just have a comment, if I could. So, Ms. Smith, this is a community that is very engaged, so I encourage you to remain engaged with these community leaders. My experience is they are
Feisty.
feisty. They are, I would prefer the word protective, and rightfully so. So, thank you. I appreciate the work on the MOU. I would just encourage you to remain in contact with these good people.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Harp, do you want to provide the board with a copy, or do you want us to take the original?
That is for you.
The original?
For the board, yes.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Anything further?
Nothing further.
On the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from counsel, and the testimony received.
I have one question. I'm so sorry, Mr. Chairman. Can you just explain the extent of your live entertainment? Because that's what you're requesting, live entertainment as well, right?
Yes, and that was in the MOU too, as DJ and what else was there?
You could just tell me. I didn't. DJ, and what hours?
Do you want me to talk? Because I
Sure.
don't want to be disrespectful.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, let him do it.
No.
'Cause of
Well, it was mentioned in here somewhere.
I thought I saw it too.
like a
Where is
live
the
band.
MOU?
DJ, like live band.
Okay. And the hours?
Monday through Thursday is from 4 to 2, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is from 12 to 2.
Okay. All right. And the community is okay. Okay. Thank you. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
There are also provisions in here to keep
Yeah,
back door closed and things
Thank
like that.
Thank you, Mr. Harp.
All right, again, on the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from counsel, and the testimony received, as well as the memorandum of understanding that's been received in evidence, I would vote to approve the application's transfer with continued live entertainment, subject to the terms of the MOU.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer with continuation of live entertainment, subject to the terms of the MOU.
I vote to approve with the continuation of live entertainment, and the license is subject to the MOU to the extent it's permitted by law.
Thank you.
Good luck, thank you.
Look, thank you.
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1. Letter from Harbell Community Association dated 7/26/2018 in opposition. Applicant Exhibit 1, MOU between Frankfurt Improvement Association and the applicants dated 9/13/2018. Thank you.
Case number 7 on the docket, Bluegrass Enterprises LLC, trading as Bluegrass, 1500 South Hanover Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Request for a hardship extension under provisions of Article 12-2202. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the address of 1500 South Hanover Street does appear on the city zoning's non-compliance and must meet standards within 2 years.
Counsel?
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street. They're familiar with it's been on the list for being non-compliant for a long time. The rule is that they have to comply under the rules to be able to sell more than 50% of the bar, which they agree with. This case here is that they originally were not operating. They had to, or closed until they found a buyer. In the meantime, they filed for the hardship. They haven't since found a buyer. And when you have an application pending, but in abundance of caution, we filed for the hardship so they could go forward. The other case that has not been sent in for a hearing, they would then operate until the time of the hearing, and hopefully it'll be approved. They're meeting, the prospective people are meeting with the neighborhood and so forth. But in the abundance of caution, they're asking for that hardship extension so there won't be a problem.
Okay. Commissioners?
I don't have any questions.
No questions.
All right, thank you. On the basis of your proffer and the letter, which is received along with the other materials that are in evidence, I would vote to approve the hardship extension.
I concur and vote to approve the hardship extension.
I vote to approve the hardship extension.
Good luck.
Good luck.
No exhibits. No, okay.
Nice of you.
Listen, if you're nice to people, they'll be nice to you.
347 Limited, no trade name given. 347 South Gilmore Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Request for a transfer hardship under the provisions of Article 12-1705, small b. Please come forward.
For the record, again, Melvin J. Kadansky, 320 North Charles Street.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, the address of 347 South Gilmore Street does appear on the zoning non-compliance list and must meet all standards within the next 2 years.
And they're familiar with that. This was approved, and the time period was running very, very close. I've explained, they tell me they're within a few days of finishing everything up. They have it all about ready, but they had to file so they wouldn't run afoul of that. So we just asked, what do you think, a week or two? It's the-
Yes, Kimberly Kadanen for the record.
You have to be sworn, please.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, set your name of that.
It's Kadanen. It's spelled C-U-D as in David, A-N-I-N.
Okay, and Ms. Kadanen, what were you telling us?
It should only be about a week. The only thing that we're waiting for are just the background checks to come in. I have all the permits, food license, trader's license, and everything already have obtained, and I have copies. And I have provided them to the Office of the Liquor Board.
Okay, so, and this is so that you can open or transfer?
Complete the transfer.
Complete the transfer, okay, okay. Okay, Commissioners?
I don't have any questions.
No questions.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. On the basis of your testimony, Mr. Kudensky's proffers the letter which we have in the file requesting the transfer and other materials. Requesting the hardship. I'd vote to approve the hardship extension.
I concur and vote to approve the hardship extension.
I vote to approve the hardship extension.
Good luck.
Good luck.
No exhibits.
Ms. Page, is that the morning docket?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until 1 p.m.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's afternoon docket. Today is Thursday, September 13th. This is the violation hearings docket. If you have a cell phone or other electronic device, I'd ask that you silence it now or put it on vibrate. When your case is called, please step forward to the microphones. If you're going to be giving testimony, please state your name into the microphone clearly, and please be prepared to be sworn in. Mr. Chair, may I please call a preliminary matter?
Please.
The case Angela Thrasher, Charles Thrasher Jr., Haven Place Incorporated, trading as Haven Place, 400 to 402 North Haven Street, Class BD7 beer, wine, liquor license, multiple violations. That case has been postponed and will be set in on a future date. Calling the remaining case in the violations docket, Vivek Gautam, Shikar Karki, and Ruprenda Lutel, B.S. and R. LLC, trading as Waverly Tavern, 3801 Old York Road. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, on April 14th, 2018. A violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare, April 14th, 2018. A violation of Rule 4.12, gambling, April 6, 2018. A violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, April 6, 2018. A violation of Rule 4.20C, small double I, Class BD7 licensees, open and operating tavern at all times, August 18th, 2018. A violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, April 18th, 2018. All parties will be testifying in this matter. Please come forward.
Counsel?
Thank you, Stephen W. Fogelman, on behalf of licensees.
Good afternoon. Would all those who plan to testify in this matter come forward and raise your right hands, please?
Yes. This is Waverly Tavern.
Raise your right hand. hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. May you lower your hands. Mr. Fogelman, your clients are charged with 5 different violations. Will these be admissions or denials?
These would be denials. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. So who's going to testify for the board on 4.16 illegal conduct?
I'm Detective Sagner, Baltimore City Police Department.
Detective, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Tell us, if you will, what happened on April 14, 2018.
Okay, sir. On the 14th, at approximately 12:25 a.m., myself and Police Officer Dotson responded to the location of the Waverly Tavern in reference to a large disorderly crowd outside the location. Upon the arrival, we observed approximately 30 people loitering outside and in the street and in front of the tavern section. The people had open containers of alcohol and were drinking on the sidewalk and also in the street. They advised that they were patrons of the bar and that they had obtained the alcohol from inside the location. Upon entering the tavern, I spoke with Tony Cole, who was in operational control of same. Mr. Cole advised that he had thrown the crowd out for being disorderly. I advised him that he was not allowed to let them loiter and consume alcohol outside of the premises. While inside the location, I conducted a licensed liquor establishment premises check. As a result, I discovered the following violations. The 3-compartment sink was not set up. There was bulk trash, improper use of extension cords, and general cleaning was required. Mr. Cole was advised of all the violations. He was also advised that the incident would be forwarded to the liquor board for further action. When the crowd outside was dispersed, it says, so there were plastic cups and trash and things all over the sidewalk in the street.
Okay. Now, you have testified about the first 2 violations and the last violation. I see that you were also involved in the open and operating violation.
Yes, sir. I have 3 dates here.
This was August 18.
August 18th. And I'm sorry, which one was that, sir?
That was if you have them in our order, it's the next to last one where my paper says that you observed no patrons inside the bar area during the time of your inspection. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And the manager had advised he had thrown them out, but they were still operating the packaged goods portion of the location.
Okay. And were you also the officer who was involved in the gambling violations?
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us about that?
Yes, sir. Let me get my notes here. With your indulgence, sir, I'm just referring to my notes.
Take your time.
Thanks. Let's see here.
It's going to be
6th of April. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's a different date, April 6th.
Thank you. On the 6th of April, 2018, at 11 p.m., responded to 3801 York Road, the Waverly Tavern, also in reference to a large crowd of people, quote, hanging outside as well as gambling in the form of a dice game taking place in front of the location. Prior to my arrival, Police Officer Reinhardt observed a large crowd gathered on the ramp and the side of the building. He also observed a group of individuals playing craps in front of the liquor store carryout section of the establishment. Upon my arrival, I spoke with the manager of the tavern, Mr. Terrence Marcus. Mr. Marcus advised that he was aware of the activity outside and he had cleared it out earlier. At this time, I conducted a licensed liquor establishment premises check, and as a result of that check, also observed that the 3-compartment sink wasn't set up. Numerous ceiling tiles were missing. Mr. Marcus was advised of the violations, and he was advised that he may not allow the loitering or gambling to occur outside the establishment during its hours of operation.
Thank you. Is there anything further about these violations?
No, sir.
Cross-examination?
Yes, thank you very much. All right, Detective, you've been there quite a few times in 2018, isn't that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
And on with respect, I guess let's do this chronologically. With respect to the situation on April 6th, that would be the fourth violation. That's regarding the gambling. You state that you witnessed people outside of the premises gambling and that you spoke with a Terrence Marcus, isn't that right?
I stated that that Police Officer Reinhardt had observed the
Reinhardt.
gambling outside, and I did speak to the Mr. Terrence Marcus.
Okay, and he had indicated to Officer Reinhardt that he had been out there earlier and cleared it out, and now it was back, and...
He had told me that as well, that he had cleared it out earlier, but he wasn't aware of what was going on.
Yeah. You've been back a few times since then. Obviously,
Yes.
at least one or two times.
Yes.
Have you ever seen Mr. Marcus work in there since then?
I have not.
Okay. And now let's see, let's skip forward to April 14th. And on April 14th, was that you personally who witnessed the patrons out front?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and on that date, you met with a Mr. Tony Cole, isn't that right?
Yes.
And now both of these incidents were back in April, right?
Yes,
Back
that's correct.
before we even had a liquor board hearing for Wave Road, for Old York Road, this location, is that right?
Oh, to the best of my
Yeah.
knowledge.
Okay, so in this instance, you spoke with a Mr. Tony Cole, isn't that right?
Yes.
All right, and you've been back since then. Have you seen Mr. Tony Cole, or somebody that looks like him working on the premises since then?
I personally have not.
Okay, all right, and then forwarding now to August the 18th, you went in, were you in there on a routine or a 311, or were you there with Social Club Task Force?
The 18th was just a routine premises check.
All right, and during that time, you found some problems with the soap, paper towels, et cetera?
Yes.
All right, now during that time, you note that there were no customers at the bar.
Yes.
Okay, were you denied entry to the bar?
No, but I was also uniform.
Yeah,
in
I mean, but you
uniform
didn't
at the
see
time.
anybody get denied entry
I
to
did
the bar
not
while you were
witness
there.
it, no.
Okay.
No.
Were you here for that protest of renewal hearing on April, I think it was April 30th?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, okay.
I had sent some supplemental
Yeah.
testimony that
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe they read in.
Absolutely. No, but I couldn't remember if you weren't here or not.
No, sir.
All right. I have nothing further for you. Thank you, Detective.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Always
sir.
a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Me too.
Is that all the testimony for the board on the violations? Okay. Do you wish to present
I
testimony?
do. Very briefly. Thank you very much. And again, I think I'm just going to do this chronologically, starting with April 6th. Mr. Karki?
Yes.
You're a licensee at 3801 Old York Road, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you work every day at Old York Road, isn't that right?
Yes, for morning time, 8 to 4.
Uh-huh.
I don't have a fixed schedule.
And do you also stay above the bar?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask Mr. Karki to step up to the microphone so we can record his testimony?
All right, thank you very much. Were you, let's see. Were you aware of the incident that Detective Sagner arrived at 11 p.m. on April 6, 2018, where a crowd had been kicked out of the bar for disorderly conduct?
Yeah, I came to find out that the next day.
You found out the next day? Yeah. Okay, and did Mr. Tony Cole work for you at that time?
Yeah, he did. But after the incident, I fired him the next day.
Why did you fire him?
Yeah, because I had particularly told him that the customers, he was not supposed to throw out the customers like that, and also the open container issue, which he was not supposed to do.
Okay.
So for those two incidents.
All right,
So
thank
he didn't
you.
handle it responsibly.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And on April 14th, there was a situation with, I'm so sorry. April 6th, let me, for the record. We were speaking about the April 14th incident where Mr. Cole threw people out of the bar, including people who had an open container. Okay, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
All right, that is April 14th. Let me then unfortunately go backwards to April 6th, 18th. Which is a situation where there was potential gambling going on in front of the bar. Have you ever seen gambling go on in front of the bar, before or after this?
No.
No. Okay. When people are loitering, what's the employee policy when people are out front?
Yeah, we normally request our employee to tell those customers not to hang out for a long time. And if they do not take the order from my employee, then we normally seek the help from police. We call 911. And in some of the incident, when we call 911, the police doesn't even show up for like 30-35 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it actually makes the case more worse when we do not get the help from the police. Yeah, and after then, now like we have hired a security as well.
Right,
to
right.
control
We'll get
the
into that
situation.
in a minute. Let's fast forward to August 18th. There was a situation.
April 8th. April.
No, August 18th is the one.
Sorry.
Jumping way ahead. August 18th, where you didn't have emergency lights working. You had some extension cords that you shouldn't have had. You had some trash on the premises and no soap or paper towels, and a used up fire extinguisher and an expired fire extinguisher. What do you have to say about that?
One of the fire extinguisher might have been expired, and also like on the bar area, we do not have those bulk trash issue. But for the soap and paper towel, it might have been out. Now I have changed my policy to fill those paper towel and hand soap twice in a day so that it doesn't run out.
Previously, you'd been making sure those items were available in the bathroom at what time each day?
Normally like 9 in the morning.
All right.
Yeah.
And since we know that most of the officers and liquor board inspectors come late at night, how did we fix that?
Now we do it twice, so 9 in the morning once and 9 in the evening once as well.
All right. Have you made any repairs to emergency lights?
Yes, it has already been done, and also, and one of those fire extinguisher that was expired, I have replaced it the next day.
Okay. And with respect to this charge, the not operating as a tavern at all times, what do you say about that?
That is completely false. The bar is open at 8 in the morning till 2 in the morning, and we have not denied any of our customers to enter inside the bar. So the customer who come into the bar, they ring the bell, and that's how they enter to the bar, and it is fully functional and running.
And no one was denied entry on August 18th, 2018, is to the best of your knowledge?
No one.
And no one's been denied entry anytime?
No one,
Okay.
any time.
All right, and your bar's not really popular, right? Tell me tell me the average number of customers you get.
Yeah, normally like we get 20 to 25 customers a day. So basically like one customer an hour, or sometime when we get busy, it's like 2 or 3 customers, 4 customers.
And in fact, you were here at the protest renewal hearing
Yes.
in late April, and you remember there was testimony, don't you? That
Yeah.
said that the people in the bar aren't the problem, it's the folks who are loitering out front and using the packaged goods side, right?
Yes,
All right.
yeah.
So, with respect to, you got a big wake-up call when you came here to the liquor board for the protest of renewal hearing, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You realized from that day forward that things had to change.
Yes.
Okay. And so, I want you to walk me through some of the things you've done to change.
Mr. Fogelman, before you do that, on the merits, is there anything further on the merits of the violations?
Let me see what I've got that's relevant to the merits rather than mitigation. No, I'll save it. Thank you.
Do the commissioners have questions on the merits?
I do have a question for you, officer, in reference to the August 18th BD7 violation. Do you recall whether there were stools or chairs at the bar?
Yes, ma'am, there are chairs at the bar.
Was there anybody behind the bar?
Not initially. They came from the packaged goods. It was one employee working by themselves.
Did it seem as though they had, it was stocked, the bar was stocked?
It's older stock there, but it did not appear to be in operation from my experience.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to make sure I understand this BD7 issue. So did you witness anyone being denied entry into the into the tavern?
I did not.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there's nothing further on it, I'm prepared to rule on the merits.
One second, just one second, please.
On the merits? You were there? I'm not, we're going to go there next if there's violations found, but we have to rule whether there's violations.
I'm going to call John Chrysomalis.
You may, if he's here. Inspector, please come forward. Have you been sworn?
I have not.
Would you raise your right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you, Inspector Chrysomalis. I just wanted to ask you, you have handled a number of these charges before, not operating as a tavern, isn't that right?
I have.
Okay. In those instances, and in instances with, say, Detective Greenhill, isn't it the policy that the board, that an inspector or other law enforcement official will ask for entry to the bar, sometimes in plain clothes?
Well, we do BD7 task force under age operations, which that would be the case of vice detective undercover or liquor board inspector undercover. We go throughout the whole city.
Right.
I don't.
Well, no. What I'm trying to specifically get at is when you do a BD7 task force, you're looking for certain items of evidence, isn't that right? Including the actions or refusal to act on the part of employees or on the part of hardware, like a door that won't open.
When we go out when we do undercover operations, we're looking for one thing, because it's a yes or no. We send in an undercover. Can I use your bar? Yes or no. So when we're doing those kind of operations, if they say yes, they pass. If they say no, they fail. We have violated establishments for not operating as a BD7 while we're conducting other investigations. That's like, for instance, underage. We will violate somebody for not operating as a BD7 when they serve a cadet. So it's.
So I guess my final question would be, would you forward a violation when the only evidence involved was the fact that there were no patrons in a bar at a given time?
It's all depends on the circumstances. The detective here has years of vice experience, so I'm not gonna. If everything is in your perspective and what you witnessed at that time. So if it was his feeling that they weren't operating as a BD7, then they weren't operating as a BD7. I can't
That's how it
answer
works.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's
Gotcha.
You know,
Thank you.
Every circumstance is different.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anything
No
further? Okay.
I just.
Question, not make a statement about what, right now, we're supposed to, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
We have violations that were brought to this hearing by the board from the police. And are we expected to challenge or agree with the violations or
weren't charged.
say anything about that?
Well, if you were there, you can. We're
If
taking
we
testimony on
were in the place?
it. Yeah, I mean, the detective was there, and he's
No,
provided all the testimony.
we trust in him. I'm just wondering whether that's something that's important to this hearing, that we, excuse me, I'm not a lawyer. And so I just wanted to make sure we were doing our due diligence here. And
I don't
is
know what
this-
you view as your due diligence, but
Well, to either confirm our confidence in the report that was made by the police. I'm sorry, it's just so not funny to us.
well, it is to me. The board respects the officer, and he was there, and he provided personal knowledge
Right.
testimony of it. You weren't there.
That's
so why are
correct.
you-
So we have no role to play at this point.
Neighbors of
So we do have testimony that we want to give.
I understand that you want to speak to the mitigation issue, but we have to rule first whether there's a
And
violation,
that's
and
what
you weren't
I'm
there.
asking.
That's what I've said repeatedly. Let us do our job.
somebody there the night of August.
Are they here today?
He gave me full permission to represent him as stated in the rules and procedures of the liquor board.
If you're going to contradict the officer's testimony, you're welcome to do so.
It's not in contradiction,
then-
but it is somebody that was there who couldn't be here.
I understand that, Councilwoman, but he told us what happened. Are you going to say it didn't happen?
No.
Okay, well then can you just let us do our job?
I'm just asking what the job is now, if it affects our role.
Madam Council, let me try and explain. So there's 2 phases to this violation.
Okay, thank you. That's the first thing I didn't know.
Well, you've been a council member for a number of years, so let me
I've been
try
a councilwoman, actually.
My apologies. There are 2 phases to this process. One is we have to rule on the merits of the charges, whether we do find violations or not.
Okay.
If we do find violations, then the chair will accept your testimony and hear from the community about how it's impacted the environment. Okay, but we're not at that place yet. We need to first.
That's all I need to know.
I thought I had said that, but I'm sorry if I didn't make it clear.
Can I ask a question of clarification?
Yes.
Sorry. Councilman Bill Henry, 4th District. This bar is in my district. And I think the clarification that would be important to the President of the Neighbor Association is if there is additional testimony supporting the officer, is there really no need to share that? Because if we wait until after you rule, if you were to rule that there was no violation, then there would be the concern that the testimony supporting the accusation, the allegation, that the testimony supporting that should have been offered. I think that was the confusion on.
Okay.
Your Honor, with all due respect, they've known about this hearing. They are well-versed in the mechanics of the Liquor Board. They could have shared any of this information with the Liquor Board inspectors over the last couple of weeks instead of been busy writing op-eds to the Baltimore Sun, for example. Your Honor, I simply would object to the additional evidence on a charge where these charges were sent to my client 10 days ago with the police reports, with what purported to be all of the evidence regarding these violations. This isn't like a protest of renewal hearing where people show up and say, yes, this bar affected me too. These are violations hearings. And I used to tell, when I was on the board, I used to say, these are the board's charges. The board owns these charges. They were built by this board and by the law enforcement officers who assist this board. They were not built by an outside party. And so, in fact, I remember at the pub crawl violation hearing we had 2 months ago, you actually had some of your evidence in the evidence packet that was emails from community members talking about the pub crawl and things like that, and those were properly placed in the docket for the hearing. In this case, this is a more than 11th hour new, fresh evidence on a violation hearing that I think is kind of unfounded. I don't think the board...
Let me ask the lady.
Sure.
I don't know, she's, ma'am?
Please.
Ma'am.
He's asking
Do you have,
Don't.
could you have your name, please, for the record?
Alina Light Chaser.
Legend?
Alina Light Chaser. Sorry. I'm sorry, I'm a singer. Lightchaser.
Do you have written testimony from the...
I couldn't hear anything. There's a lot of talking. All I hear is the talking going on behind the lady. Spell your first name.
Alina, Alina.
Your last name.
Lightchaser.
Do you have written statement from someone who was present on April 14th, April 6th, or August 18th?
August 18th.
August 18th. Could you show it to counsel for the other side, and we'll accept it in evidence?
So the night of the shooting in August, that's where he starts with the story.
And whose testimony is this?
This is John McAfee.
He's a member of your organization?
He lives, oh gosh,
He's
he
a
lives
neighbor.
right next to the liquor board. It's,
You mean to the establishment?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
What's his address?
That's all right.
I'll have
I
to
take,
look it
I
up.
take you at your word. He lives
Okay.
next door.
Yeah,
Okay.
he lives right next door.
He lives next door, or he lives right near there?
He lives
I've
right
got
across the street.
okay, I have a picture of
So-
who lives next door, and nobody lives next
Nobody
door.
lives next door. He lives across the
Okay.
street. He has a lot of land. He has about a quarter acre of land, and he lives directly across the street in one of those old Victorian homes.
Okay, and what has he told you about the open and operating charge or the trash and emergency lights charge?
Nothing about that.
Well, that, you said it was August, those are the only charges from August 18.
Oh, okay. What about the gambling charge?
That was on April 6th.
Okay, because they were gambling in August.
They
Objection.
aren't charged with that, so.
He also says that there was no bar in working for 2 months.
Objection.
On August 18th? Yeah, on August 18th, they hadn't been working the tavern for 2 months.
So he was in the establishment on that date?
He has cameras set up and he's been watching.
Inside the establishment?
Not inside, but he's like right outside, so he has.
And why isn't he here? Because that's pretty critical.
He had to work.
Okay.
Thank you. First, I have to object. We still don't even have his address. I have a name. This letter is not signed. I obviously have no way to cross-examine him, so I would object to the admission thereof.
May I?
Additionally, there is other inflammatory material in that letter that she did not name.
Well, we're not going to
That's
be
pointing at your
concerned with things
questions.
that aren't relevant to the charges, so.
Right. And then finally, I guess I have to ask Ms. Lightchaser. Ms. Lightchaser, have you ever been in the establishment?
No.
Okay. How would Mr. McAfee even know who was in the bar when it has 2 entrances and exits? You are aware that you can enter the bar, the primary way of entering the bar is by entering the front, the packaged goods area, right? And Mr. McAfee's allegations somehow say that he saw no bar in use for 2 months. But my point is, how could anyone, is he stating that no customers entered the Waverly Tavern for 2 months?
According to his knowledge and his video cameras.
Yeah, none of which are here today. This is so secondhand.
I
Yeah,
understand
I'm
it's
going to just
wor-
stop right there.
The evidence has the weight that will be given it by the board, okay? So it will be received.
Thank you, Ms. Lightchaser.
Anything else?
No, did you want
Not to this issue, no.
to? Okay.
Okay. Commissioners ready for roll?
Well, may I just do a brief closing or at least
sure.
a quick testimony based on Ms. Lightchaser's colleagues' allegations?
You may.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Karki, how many entrances do you have to the bar area of the of 3801 Old York Road?
Yeah, 2.
Okay, and can people who go into the store go into the bar?
Yes, they can.
Okay. Is it your testimony that the bar was closed down for any day since April?
No, the bar is always open.
Okay.
Yeah, no day it has been closed.
All right. I have no further questions. Just a really brief closing
Okay.
at that. Thank you. Just very quickly, I'll go down the charges, not chronologically, but in the order that I believe they're on your docket. April 14th, 2018, illegal conduct. This is the incident where Mr. Cole pushed everyone out, regardless of whether they had alcoholic beverages on them or not. My clients found out about it the next day, so they're not in a position to dispute that, but they did immediately fire Mr. Cole. With respect to the April 14th general welfare charge, again, I believe that these charges are duplicative, duplicative in the with respect to sentencing. I mean, something did happen that night. There was alcohol outside. There was a crowd outside. I'm not at liberty to understand what got Mr. Cole, what made him snap and throw everyone out of the bar. He is now fired. There have been no reports of any of that kind of activity since the date in question, since April 14th. So Mr. Karki cannot go back in time and make what happened that night not happen. What he's done is he's hired new employees who understand that everything they do will be scrutinized and magnified, and therefore they're trying to run on a zero in compliance policy at this point. With respect to the charge of April 6th and the gambling, I think that one, both of them here, the illegal conduct and the unlawful activity, I think that one is really difficult. And it's one of those questions of where does the licensee's responsibility end and where do the police department's responsibilities begin? And if you've got, and you see the police report, you've heard the testimony here today, whatever was happening, dice, whatever, it was out front. And Mr. Terrence Marcus, Officer Sagner's testified to, came out once and said, everybody get out of here. And then they came back. So Mr. Marcus is also no longer employed by this establishment, and the policy now with the employees is simple, is that you always call the police. That's all there is to it, because then if I've called you here to disperse this crowd, then you can't blame it on me because I've now requested your assistance. So that's the policy. You clear it out yourself and you call the police, and then you don't clear it out again, because it's not their job anymore once it's outside of the establishment. So I think that one is a little unfair, because I believe the employee, even though he's fired, I think he did what he was supposed to do. He told everybody to get out of there, but he also has a register to ring. He also has to monitor the rest of the store. So I really don't think much more could have been done to be in compliance with the law with respect to those charges. Now, with respect, I'll save the 420 for last. The illegal conduct charge is a charge that, unfortunately, this bar, I think it's safe to say that this bar has been inspected more than any other bar in the city of Baltimore in the last 5 months. And I think that these are the kind of things that, unfortunately, on any given night, the Social Club Task Force can roll through and find a few lights inoperable and an extension cord that shouldn't be used, and maybe a bathroom that's not up to standards. In this case, these items have been ameliorated. Additionally, when this board told the Waverly Improvement Association residents who were here on April 30th to start calling 311, they heard you, and they call 311 every night. And you might know that if your iPhones work like my BlackBerrys once did. It goes off all the time. And sometimes there's something there, sometimes there's not. This is a situation where Mr. Karki has already had a couple of hearings with the Environmental Control Board, already paid fines for these very instances of trash and electrical cords. So these items are getting ameliorated, is what I'm getting at. And, I don't think while they are charges and you must deal with them, I don't think they are severe charges. And he admits, I said, no admission, but we're admitting illegal conduct with respect to the various issues on August 18th, except for and vociferously against the concept that this tavern wasn't open and operating on August 18th. Like Mr. Karki just said a few minutes ago, and I hope you remember from this hearing on April 30th, that there was testimony that it wasn't the bar itself that was the problem, that there was an older crowd that used the bar, and they were never the problem. It was the people who used the packaged goods front and the people who hang out front. They were the problem. They were the troublemakers. There's never been an allegation from this community who has thrown almost everything but the kitchen sink at this board and at other agencies to try to get some action. And that is that's just simply not true. And I've been doing this work for a few years, and obviously was on the other side for a few years, and I have never, ever heard of a charge sustained by this board simply because there were no customers in a bar. I remember cases from 2009 where there were photos taken by our inspectors that showed a Happy New Year 1969 banner hanging from a bar on North Avenue and calendars from 1970 and an inch of dust on the bar. Okay, these are the true not operating as a BD7. Just because a little rinky-dink bar that I've been in twice now, and both times I've seen one customer, it doesn't say you have to be a popular bar. It doesn't say that you have to be a busy bar. It just has to be available for customers' use. And my client and all the other evidence, and I think that's the important thing here, is that you haven't heard it before because you've heard so much about this bar in the last 5 months, and you haven't heard that. And that's because it was a subjective opinion of the detective, who I respect, and I don't remember him bringing a case like this before any board where it was simply there was nobody there. I mean, L.C. Greenhill and so many others, they go undercover. They say, I want to use the bar. I say, bar's closed. Or they pull on the door and nobody lets them in. Those are acts of refusal. Or even just language. I'm sorry, bartender got sick and the place is closed. You've convicted on that, okay? But I've never seen you convict on an empty bar. And in fact, we could go on a little tour right now, and there's probably 30 bars that are open and don't have anybody sitting in them right now. So, you got to have more than that, is what I'm saying. And I understand what Detective Sagner's, he's getting the reports too. He's feeling the heat from the community. He's trying to do his job and go in and keep an eye on these guys. That's fine. But there's no 4.20 charge here, and that's what I'm saying. And now, if I may, since I'll wrap this up. I was going to tell you, or you want me to save these for mitigation if necessary? I want to tell you about the improvements they've made since April.
Let's wait for mitigation.
You got it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, we ready to go, Merits?
Yes.
Okay. With respect to the violations that are charged on the basis of the testimony received this afternoon and the evidence that's been admitted and the written testimony that was submitted, I would find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on April 14, 2018. I'd find a violation of Rule 3.12 general welfare on April 14, 2018. I'd find a violation of Rule 4.12 gambling on April 6, 2018. I'd find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on April 6, 2018. I would dismiss the violation of 4.20 C small 2 for open and operating on August 18, 2018, because I don't believe the testimony and evidence met the standard that's in our regulations. I would find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on August 18, 2018.
I too find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on April 14, 2018. I too find a violation of Rule 3.12 general welfare on April 14, 2018. I find a violation of Rule 4.12 gambling on April 6, 2018. I find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on April 6, 2018. I find a violation of Rule 4.20 open and operating on April 18, 2018, and that's based on the testimony of the officer. And finally, I find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on April 18, 2018.
I find a violation of Rule 4.16 legal conduct on April 14th, 2018. Find a violation of Rule 3.12 general welfare on April 14th, 2018. I find a violation of Rule 4.12 gambling on April 6th, 2018. I find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on April 6th, 2018. I do not find a violation of Rule 4.20 on the Class BD7 open and operating. I don't think it met the standard required. I don't know that anyone was specifically denied access. That came out in the detective's testimony. And I find a violation of Rule 4.16 legal conduct on April 18, 2018.
Okay, so with respect to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 violations that were sustained, the record indicates that these licensees, this is the first violation of each of these things. So under the law, our maximum sanction is $500 per violation. So do you want to add mitigation?
The fine is $500.
Yes.
Yeah, here's what I'd like to add in mitigation, subject to possible cross-examination of other speakers during this time. There was talk about a lack of security at the protest of renewal hearing. My clients have procured a security company for Friday and Saturday nights from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. I've got a courtesy copy for each of you and one for the file for Ms. Russell.
And when did that occur?
That occurred on June 19th. Less than 2 months after our hearing.
So what does the security operation do?
So the security, and does anybody need a copy?
Yes, we do.
Sure.
Thank you,
I also asked my client, unfortunately this was kind of last minute, to procure some invoices showing that he has paid for this, and he has given me these. So the security guard, there's a security guard out front from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights, which were identified as the worst nights of the week by the Waverly Improvement Association protestants who came before you on April 30th.
Does he disperse the crowds?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. I mean, that's pretty much primarily his job. He is pretty much outside. And he, They pay $250 every night. I mean, sorry, $125 a night. It's $250 a week, $1,000 a month. I'd be happy to put those records in for you. Just have to, unfortunately, sort them. I think there's,
It's just Friday and Saturday nights?
at this point, that's exactly what it is. It's just Friday and Saturday nights. He hasn't received any feedback as to that's not enough or anything like that. I'll just give you some receipts. What I don't have in here is August receipts, and that's what I really had hoped for. I have them all from June and July. Let me give a copy to you.
Does Ms. Russell have these?
July 8th, June.
There's a second set, I think.
She's, I think.
And
Do you have these?
And I'll give a copy to Ms. Russell. All right, so that was a first step towards making sure that the bar is not causing an undue disturbance in the community. Let me show you some photographs of what this bar has been up to. One for Ms. Russell.
Thank you.
Okay, and oops, I think I gave them all out. Oh, can I give you the first picture is of the Waverly Tavern front. You can see up in the left there is a new security camera, small security camera there to the left bottom of the sign. On the second page, if you look above the door, you can see, and to the right of the entrance, you can see a new security camera that's been installed, and then you can see a security camera that's been installed above this door. On the third page, you can see a close-up of a security camera that's been placed in the rear of the building. On the fourth page, you can see a sign that's new that says no loitering, littering, drinking of alcoholic beverages, violators subject to arrest. On the fifth page, you start to see some of the problems that my client has. The fifth page is a photo of the rear of the premises of 3803 Old York Road, a dilapidated, abandoned building that unfortunately, after 2 a.m., after the bar is closed, people go back there. The final page is the front door of 3803 Old York Road, which is right next door, the next door neighbor to my client, and people routinely congregate there and sit on the steps. Now, 3803 is clearly not my client's property and not my client's problem, and I would hope that the city and the Waverly Improvement Association would work on getting something done about 3803, because it makes my client's job harder if he can leave their property and go to someone else's property.
Let me
and
ask
do
him a
whatever they
question.
want.
So what use is made of the security camera footage?
Yeah, so, if we see any loitering outside, we call the police immediately when we do not have the security guard.
And have you been turning over the security camera footage to the police?
Yes, sir. I have done it several times regarding any of the incident that happened outside, whether it is related to the bar or not. And also, I have fully cooperated with the officer on the July 19th incident.
Excuse me, Detective, before you leave?
Sir.
I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
So you heard the testimony. Are you receiving the footage?
I have no knowledge of us receiving any footage.
Is that because you haven't requested it, or you don't know, or?
We haven't requested that I know of personally, but,
Okay.
sir.
All right, thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, very briefly, I'm almost done. I just want to draw your attention to a letter dated March 1st, 2018, only because it's close to these charges, just a little more than a month before these charges, indicating that the licensees had passed a underage sale compliance check. And we do know the board takes that seriously, and that's why I'm happy to let you know that obviously that's not been a part of their business culture there at all. And finally, they have tried to communicate with the Waverly Improvement Association. They've attended Waverly Improvement Association meetings. No one's asked for their opinion on anything. People know who they are now. They got introduced at this very room on April 30th. So in that regard, the Liquor Board in an effort to bring some peace, recommended, encouraged mediation.
Thank you.
And that mediation was encouraged to be held through the Baltimore Mediation Center. I just passed it the other night on Greenmount on my way up to a community meeting with this man here, Councilman Henry. In any event, for whatever reason, and let me throw this out there, there is a 31802 of Courts and Judicial Proceedings, which doesn't like us to talk about anything mediation related. That statute is clearly directed to a situation where a body of law requires mediation or orders mediation of the parties. And I believe this was simply...
Go down this road. This is not a renewal hearing, it's a violation hearing.
No, but
and
I think
whether
it's important to show that he's trying.
Well, maybe he is, but he's not charged with failing to do things to the community. He's charged with violating our rules and regulations.
While I agree with you, I also believe that there's sort of a culture here that I don't understand, that instead of engaging with the licensee to make positive change, that
I don't have any
newspapers-
control over that, Mr. Fogelman.
that
No.
op-ed articles have to be written, and people want hearings on the liquor board.
I can't help you with that,
Okay,
Mr. Fogelman.
thank you. So I'll be happy to finish at this time.
I do have a question, but you can go ahead and finish.
No, I just,
I'm sorry. Who's here?
Sorry, no, go ahead, continue. I'll-
if anybody got the message from appearing before this board on their first time, it was these licensees. If you remember back to that hearing, they claimed that they'd never heard of 90% of the complaints and allegations that were made that day. Some of those allegations were pretty wild, and interestingly enough...
Concerned with 5 violations right now.
Well, I know, and that's the interesting part, is they all got boiled down to that. Many of those violations, if you look in the liquor board's own file, were police reports from when these guys got robbed or when these guys got assaulted because they wouldn't give a refund. They were as much the victim in these matters. So now this is over 2 years' worth of police work, and that's what we are left with here. They got the message. They understand that this is a very serious situation. They're doing everything, including continuing to try to engage with the community to bring some harmony to the community. So I'd ask that you consider those things, and I thank you very much for your patience and time today.
Thank you. I do have
Commissioner.
a question. Did you?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
At the last hearing, there was some discussion about a possible transfer.
Yes.
What's the status
I'll
of
be-
that?
Mr. Karki has filed a transfer for application or for ownership as the sole licensee. And so, Mr. Karki, the buck stops with Mr. Karki, and Mr. Karki is all in now, not 33% and 100% in. And so there will be a hearing on that probably around Halloween, the way the dockets are moving these days. And so we will have another chance to re-engage with the community and maybe work out some issues.
Okay.
I thank you very much.
So is there anyone who wants to testify with respect to these 5 violations and the mitigation?
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Henry. I am the councilperson for the 4th District. I represent a small part of the Waverly neighborhood. My colleague, Councilwoman Clark, represents the majority of the neighborhood, but the tavern is in the small portion that I represent. And so I'm here before you today to say that we have additional neighbors who would like to speak to this section, and I believe 2 of them will need to be sworn in at that time. What I wanted to begin with was a couple of questions. You had noted that this was the first violation for each of these different violations. When the liquor board is keeping track of those things, is that per licensee or per establishment?
Well, he can't be charged with other licensees.
Okay, so that's what the reason I was asking about that is I have represented this tavern for almost 11 years, and I had instances and conversations with the previous licensee, and I have had contact with the current licensee, and so my question was, so that means that things that were problems in the past under the previous licensee, they get to basically start over with a clean slate
Well, he's
when-
not responsible for what the other person
Right,
did.
okay. And that's important for us to understand as the community, because from the community's perspective, you live next to a loud, noisy bar where stuff goes wrong every year. But if in between those things, the ownership or the licensee changes, but the behavior of the business doesn't change, then for the community, it's just a constant chronic negative impact, but it's meeting your rules, I understand.
Presumably those violations were heard by prior boards and ruled on, and protests of renewal occurred, and they dealt with them. We weren't the board for any of those, so we don't have knowledge of them.
This is where I will also add that until 2016, you as a board, the only criteria you were allowed to use when judging a transfer was the character of the applicant. You could not, as a board prior to 2016, take into account the character of the business and the negative impact of the business historically. And I believe that that may now be something that you're capable of, but previous boards didn't have that
Well,
opportunity.
it's also the case sometimes that a transfer is good, because if a different licensee takes over and does a better job, it can be helpful, but we don't know.
Fair enough. And then the second question I had about the section where the violation about not behaving like a BD7 was not sustained because it did not meet your standard. And what I took that to mean was that the officer saw that there was no one in there, but the officer did not see people refused entry.
The standard requires two things.
Okay.
One, that someone is denied entry, and the other is we could find a violation if there was no alcohol stock there, inventory, whatever. When he was asked about that, he said that it was old stock, but he didn't deny that they were stocked. So we didn't have any evidence on that I thought we could find a violation on.
Do you need both of those or either of those?
I think either.
Okay. And the reason I wanted to ask that is going forward, as Mr. Fogelman has mentioned, the community is very now aware that they need to be more regimented and specific in their complaints and concerns about this establishment moving forward. And one of the things that they should be on the lookout for is if anyone in the community themselves tries to gain entry to the tavern and is refused, they should make a note of that date and time so that they can testify to that fact in front of the board.
I believe all our rules and regulations are on our website if they want to look at them.
And then if they see others being refused entry, they can also testify to that effect? I mean, that's a question, I'm sorry. Can I testify that I was looking out my window and I saw someone walk up to the door and it was locked during operating hours?
Yeah, and that's how we, if the detective had told us he saw something, that's how we would have known about it.
So in that case, I'd like to turn it over first to Jim Fendler, who is a neighbor who wanted to testify. He will need to be sworn in.
Okay.
And then,
Well, I'll go last.
and then we will proceed from there. Okay.
Okay.
Good morning.
Raise your right hand, please. Is there anyone else who's going to be testifying? Let's get our hands raised and get sworn, okay?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
What's your name, sir?
James Fendler.
Fendler. Okay. Mr. Fendler, what do you want to tell us?
Well, regarding the charges today, unfortunately, I didn't have anything directly addressing those, but as far as mitigating factors, I live around the corner and am constantly seeing loitering in front of the building.
So has anything changed since June when they got the security?
No.
Are you aware of the security on the weekends?
No, honestly, no. It says, according to the invoices, it's 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. I believe you stated 9 a.m. mistakenly, I guess, but 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. And there are people there from 8 in the morning throughout the day. On the way to work in the mornings, there are people there. In the evenings, when I take my dogs to the park, there are people there hanging out. On the way to the hearing this morning, there are people there hanging in front of the store. Regarding the house that's adjacent to the 3803 Old York Road is directly adjacent to the property. I may be mistaken, but there's supposed to be a certain amount of space dedicated to loitering. If that vacant house is immediately adjacent to the property, I'm not saying that the liquor store is responsible for clearing it, but there are people there constantly. So wouldn't that fall within their purview if 50 feet from your establishment, people aren't supposed to loiter? I don't know, maybe it's a police issue, but there are people there constantly sitting on those steps. And all of this leads to the increased amount of violence that has been occurring in the neighborhood, and that's the biggest concern, is that all this just continues. The gentleman, the owner, testified that he daily makes calls to 911. I'd love to see evidence of it, because people just are there every day. Maybe a slight exaggeration, not every day, but virtually every day. There are people loitering in front of that store from morning till night. And that's our neighborhood's concern. And we don't want to see another shooting there. We don't want to see any other kind of violence there. There's drug dealing there that's been told to me by tenants that I manage on the 600 block of East 38th Street. Unfortunately, it's a blight. I don't want to see them go out of business, but I do want to see them act responsibly.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Mr. Fendler, when you say act responsibly, can you explain what you mean by that? I mean, I want to make sure I understand the community's perspective, because, this board doesn't have the right to force you guys to mediate, but I would have hoped that would have occurred, so there would be a full discussion on what that means, and it'd be a real partnership. Unfortunately, that didn't occur for whatever reason. But I want to understand, it sounds to me that this licensee has made has taken a number of steps. The question is whether they're effective, and your point is that they're not. So I'm trying to understand what you think, within the confines of the law, the licensee should do to address these issues.
Well, I'm no longer a member of the board or anything representative of Waverly Improvement. But personally, for all those things, my wife is fond of saying, despite all these efforts, it just doesn't show. And we need something effective. I can't, tell them what needs to happen. I can just look at what's going on a regular basis and say, this is a problem, and if I want to be in business there, I'm going to deal with it. It's not on us. Sure, I wasn't aware of the mediation outreach, and maybe that's a good idea, but mediation's not going to clear the steps. It's not going to clear the sidewalk. Something effective has to happen, and they talked about the neighbors calling 311. We can call 311 all we want to, and part of this is probably a police issue.
Well, I see all the 311 calls, and I will tell you this, these inspectors, we only have 6 inspectors now, 6 or 7 inspectors citywide for 1,250 licenses. So, and they have more and more responsibility, given many of the initiatives the mayor has, which we support. So this has to be a partnership in my mind between the community, the police, and the liquor board. And so I understand your
Maybe
point.
there's something out of the box that we can do. I don't know, some kind of PR or something. Like I said,
I just wanted to get your understanding, sir, for what you thought, if there was anything tangible, but I understand.
I like going to the store. I don't go to the bar, but I go to the store occasionally. And honestly, it's constantly in the back of my mind. I shouldn't have to live this way, but I don't want to catch a stray walking to that store.
Gotcha.
And that's just my personal feeling.
Thank you.
And just briefly, if I may.
Okay.
Very briefly.
Could I address the mediation issue for just a moment?
That's a cross-examination question for Mr.
I thought he was done addressing the mediation issue, because I'll be happy to get back into the mediation issue if you want to.
Mediation, not mitigation.
No, mediation.
I haven't started.
We have to speak one at a time.
Yes.
This is getting a little out of hand.
Mr. Fendler, there was a question for you.
Mr. Fendler, very briefly, would you, since you live next door, since you live so close, and you're not a member of the association, do you have
I'm a member of this association. I'm not a
Oh, you're
member
not
of
on
the board. Yeah.
But do you have any interest in dialogue with the owners as to what more needs to be done? And if so, could I make sure
Sure.
that you have their contact information?
Sure.
Okay.
I believe, I'm not sure, because it's been a long time, and I really don't recall what we've spoken before. I know that the tavern has been supportive of the association in the past.
Right.
but it's just a situation that continues to go on. So
We're,
we
yeah,
need to-
we're desperate
No, I
to talk
appreciate
to
the outreach.
anybody. Yeah, everybody,
Okay.
absolutely.
I
Thank
can't
you.
say that I'll represent
No, no.
the community,
Not at all,
but I'm,
just what you see. and
Okay.
what- Yeah, as a sort of an expert who actually lives right there. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
that's all.
If I could, what I wanted to add to the mediation issue is that as the council person, I made repeated invitations to the current licensee over the last several years, leading up to comprehensive rezoning back in 2016, because the previous licensee had expressed an interest in having the property rezoned to be commercial. It's not currently commercial property. And I said, you will need to come and meet with the Waverly Improvement Association and discuss with them, their concerns about your establishment. This would have been back in like 2014. And for years, I periodically reminded them that they needed to come and meet with the community, and they did not. They never did come. The first time I have seen them at a Waverly Community Association meeting was at the most recent one that representatives from the Liquor Board were at, where they brought with them two gentlemen who were disruptive to the proceedings of the meeting. And when I say they brought with them, I mean these two guys came in with the licensee and the licensee's attorney and left with them after their portion of the meeting. If it was a coincidence that these two men just happened to come in with you and happened to leave with you, then that's an incredible coincidence. But I will say that while they have shown a lot of nice paper saying that they are interested in working with the community, first of all, none of that started until after they got the wake-up call, as has been described here, which what I would reflect as the first time the board made it clear to them that they were in serious potential of, losing their license. And it wasn't until then that they even reached out to people that frankly they had disrespected for years. And I just want to make that clear on the record. Thank you.
Is there more
May
testimony?
I address that or
I
the
don't know
councilman?
what it even has to do with
I don't
these
either.
proceedings, but You'll have to ask the commissioner,
Thank you.
because I'd like to get to the mitigation issues. Okay? Is there someone else who wants to testify on those?
I'm Barbara Valeri, Valeri, and I've been working with the Waverly Improvement Association on some of the problem bar issues.
What does that mean?
As a member of the Baltimore
Let her
Good
finish her
Neighbors,
testimony,
Baltimore Good Neighbors Coalition. One of the questions I have is testified that the tavern or the bar area is open at 8 a.m. Is that when you open your establishment?
No questions.
No questions. Anyway, I thought a BD7 license allowed you to open at 6 a.m. and go till 2 a.m. And we've had testimony here today that the bar
And is that
portion-
related to these violations?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
how?
well, they said they open at 8 a.m.
But
so
they
they're
aren't
not.
charged with their hours issues.
Well, it's open and operating at all times.
But
so,
they weren't found guilty of that.
well, okay.
So do you have anything
But-
about the violations?
Just that, based on Mr. Fogelman's testimony and Mr. Carkey's testimony, it would appear that the tavern portion is violating the new zoning provisions in Transform Baltimore. And I would
That
just
has nothing to do with this
And I would
case.
just ask that you refer this matter to the code enforcement people as a
We're not the
potential
zoning
issue.
board, ma'am.
I
Do you have
understand.
anything relevant to tell us?
I think that's relevant, and I think it's not operating as a tavern.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Valeri. Ms. Valeri.
That-
Okay.
You weren't
You
found
got it.
guilty of that.
You got it.
I don't know what she's talking about. You-
Mary Pat Clark, Baltimore City Council. I represent an awful lot of the constituents in the Waverly area that happen to be just south, across the street, down the street from this location. I would like to speak directly to what you're talking about and say that it is my understanding that there are other than $500 maximum sanctions around these violations, or at least some of them. that suspension or revocation are also available. Excuse me?
I believe the law allows that.
Yes, I
Doesn't often
just think
happen on a
we
first offense,
Sir, it was stated earlier that the board's limited to $500 maximum.
As a fine.
And so I understand now that you meant as a fine.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to be clear that there are other options available, and that as I had the honor to represent this part of Waverly for many, many years, when it was operated by another operator. Never in all that time, many years as president and also second district council member, did I have, that I can recall, and I would remember, a complaint about it. So this isn't something that's been going on for decades, and it's just one more operator coming in to continue on with chaos. This is about now and what has happened recently to disrupt in this part of Waverly and the city. And so I would ask that you please consider us, consider the community, testimony that's come before this board, not just today, but at the hearing where, in the long run, through a fluke I don't know, a fluke, we didn't have, it was decided that they couldn't be revoked at that point.
But if you had disagreed with that, you could have appealed. You didn't. And that.
Sir, I actually am not a party to anything. I'm not part of the Waverly Improvement Association.
It's not in front of us today. So.
Right, and I'm so sorry. I didn't appeal, and they didn't appeal.
Right.
That costs money, and this is not a wealthy community. This is just a regular group of working people trying to live a quiet life, and it would be far more important to have a suspension or a revocation than to have these guys pay money. That doesn't get us anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Okay, so my name's Alina Lightchaser. I live on Chestnut Hill, which is right around the corner, and I drive by the establishment. I could see it down the road from when I turn the corner into my house, and there are people loitering all hours of the day, from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. till later. So on the weekends, of course, when I come home later at night, you know, they're all out there. They're all sitting out there and doing whatever they basically want to do. It is lawlessness. And there have been numerous shootings. There was a murder, as you all know. So we are, as a community, and I am the co-president of the Waverly Improvement Association, we are all very frightened of this area. I have children. I don't let them walk anywhere near that place. And like I said, I see people out there from all hours of the day, 8 a.m. and on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Anything further?
I have one customer who lives 3-minute walk away. I make a proffer that he says he doesn't see a fraction of this loitering that's being
Let him
reported.
be sworn.
Thank you. He was sworn earlier. Yes.
Your name, sir?
And my name for the record is Prakash Raghubar. I live on
You can just spell
6 Prakash, last name Raghubar, Raghubar. And my address is 631 Wine Oak Avenue, 2 minutes walk from this establishment. And now, if you are part of the community, which I live and work in the community, and I'm always walking up and down the street also, you know. If I have to go to the store, I walk. I would not drive. You know, people is outside. You know, you can't stop people from walking on the street. But there, you know, there's abandoned houses. You know, that encourages people to, whatever they're doing, selling drugs or, you know, shooting dice. That's, you know, no one lives there. They go there and they, you know, do whatever they're doing. Now, for the safety of the community, everywhere has crime. I think it's mostly a police issue. It needs to have more, you know, police officers out there to prevent these things from happening. Now, this establishment is not the cause for that. It can happen in front of my house. I'm gonna blame the neighbor? No. There's no police officers out there, so they can't do anything about it. If they do police officer pass by, they just split up.
But what specifically, any steps you've seen for them to try to improve their
Oh,
security?
yeah, they have security out there, you know, nobody loiters in front of the establishment. Now, the houses next door to it, they do, things like that. But they, you know, they improve the security cameras, you know, whatever crime happens, not gonna happen in front of the establishment because of what they, you know, the security and the cameras and everything else.
Anything further? Commissioners have anything else?
Any questions?
Okay, thank you. With respect to the violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on April 14, 2018, I would impose a $500 fine. With respect to the violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare on April 14, 2018, I would impose a $500 fine. With respect to the violation of Rule 4.12, gambling on April 6, 2018, I'd impose a $500 fine. With respect to the violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on April 6, I would impose a $500 fine. With respect to the violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on August 18, 2018, I'd impose a $500 fine for a $2,500 total fine. I give them 30 days to pay.
I concur with the $500 fine as to Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on April 14, 2018. I will impose a $500 fine as to Rule 3.12, general welfare on April 14th. I concur with a $500 fine as to Rule 4.12, gambling on April 6, 2018. $500 fine on Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on April 6, 2018. And finally, $500 fine for Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on August 18, 2018. And actually, I am inclined to suspend them for a period of 2 weeks.
Commissioner Greenfield?
I found a violation for Rule 4.16, legal conduct on April 14, 2018. I impose a $500 fine. Rule 3.12, general welfare, I impose a $500 fine. I agree with a $500 fine for Rule 4.12, gambling on April 6th. I agree with a $500 fine for Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on April 6, 2018. I would agree with the imposition of a $500 fine for Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on August 18, 2018. With respect to a suspension, I don't think that this warrants a 2-week suspension, but I would agree with a 1-week suspension and would strongly encourage the sides to sit down and have a conversation with the police and the liquor board.
And I will agree with the 1-week extension as well. So $2,500 plus a 1-week extension with 30 days to pay.
1-week suspension.
Suspension.
And it will begin?
I'm sorry?
When will it begin?
Today.
Okay.
Or whenever we
I
can
would
get
say
the
immediately.
license.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
What time?
I guess when the inspectors can pick up the license. Who's going to be, you, Mr. Howard, are you going to be doing that? Do you have any idea what time? Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Akers, does that conclude our docket?
Before we conclude the docket, I believe there are pieces of evidence need to be called in the record.
I'm sorry. Oh, it was exhibits. I didn't hear. Okay, yes. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Protocol exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective Sagner, dated April 14, 2018. Board Exhibit 2, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective Sagner, dated April 6, 2018. Board Exhibit 3, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective Sagner, dated August 18, 2018. Board Exhibit 4, Letter of Opposition from Delegate Murray Washington, dated 5/28/2018. Community Exhibit 1, Written Testimony from John McAfee in opposition. Licensee Exhibit 1, Security Agreement. Licensee Exhibit 2, receipts. Exhibit 3, 6 exterior photos. Exhibit 4, letter from Baltimore City Liquor Board dated 3/1/2018. And Exhibit 5, mediation opportunity letter dated 6/11/2018. Thank you.
Does that conclude us?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the afternoon docket.
All right, thank you.
Board will be in recess until September 27, 2018.